Today we're going to look at graphing from an equation. So before I go through the graphs with you, I want you to write down a couple steps on how we're going to solve these. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to graph the y-intercept. And remember, your y-intercept is your b value. AKA, what that really means is put a point at b. Step 2, we are going to use the slope. And remember, slope is rise over run. Move that out of the way. To go up and over, or to go down and over. And then step 3, I want you to graph at least 3 points, if it's possible. Sometimes you'll run out of graphing space. Okay? So now, if we look at our first graph, before we do anything, I want us to identify your m, which is your slope, and your b, which is your y-intercept. Remember, your slope is the one that comes with x, so my slope is -2. My b, you start at the operation and get the number, it is a +2. So if I go by my steps, my first thing is to graph the y-intercept. So on your y-axis, go to +2 and put a dot. Now, when my slope is a whole number like this, -2/1, to figure out rise and run, if it's a whole number, put it over 1. So how we're going to do this, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can graph this point. From 2, you're going to go up 2 and backwards 1, because that gives me a slope of -2. The other way would be to go down 2 and to the right 1, because still, if I found the slope from this dot that I just placed, I would go up 2 and back 1, up 2 and backwards 1. So I have my 3 dots. I'm going to go ahead and connect my dots and make a line. So that line is now graphed, and that's all you would have to do. The next one, y equals 3/5 x minus 4. Again, we need to find m, and we need to find b. My m this time is 3/5. Don't get scared because it has a fraction. It's really going to be a little easier. And my b is -4. So first thing we're going to do, step 1, is to graph my y-intercept. Put a point at b. So go to 0 and go down 4 and put a dot. Now my slope is 3/5. Remember, this is rise over run. So you're going to go rise 3, so 1, 2, 3, and run 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this is one of those graphs where I can't really graph 3 because I would run out of coordinate plane from what I've been given. So we're going to connect our dots, draw your arrows, and now you have graphed that line. All right, our next one is y equals x. First thing we need to do is figure out m and b. M, what number is in front of x? If there's no number in front of x, remember there's always an imaginary 1. And b, I don't have anything written there, so my b would be 0. So 1, to write it as a fraction, rise over run, would be 1/1. So step 1, to graph b, we're going to put a dot at 0. Now, a slope of 1/1, we're going to go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. This is one where I could graph more than 3 dots if I needed to, but I'll just connect those and we can move on. Okay, we have 2 more to look at. On this one, remember we're going to talk about M and we're going to talk about B. Well, on this one, y equals -4. My -4 is by itself, it's not the x, so I know that will be my B value. I don't have an x up here, or any number with an x, so my slope would be 0. And remember, we talked about the other week, a slope of 0 will be a horizontal line. So to graph this one, I'm going to go to my y-intercept of -4, and I'm going to draw my horizontal line. Since we talked about a horizontal line, it's only fair if we talk about a vertical line. So my slope for x equals 5, my m will be undefined. Like we talked about a few weeks ago, undefined is a vertical line. My b value, I don't have y equals anything up here, so my b value doesn't really exist. It never crosses the y-axis. So to graph this point, I'm going to go to where x equals 5. I'm going to put a dot. Since I know it's a vertical line, I'm going to go ahead and just draw my line straight up and down. And that's all you would do to graph that point, or that line.